Roman Reigns shocks WWE Raw with epic return before Survivor Series 2025. They lied to us. WWE looked us straight in the face and lied about Roman Reigns' return timeline, and nobody is talking about the real reason why he showed up on Raw last night instead of waiting for Survivor Series like they promised. This wasn't some spontaneous decision. This wasn't Roman feeling the call of the WWE Universe. This was a panic move by WWE management because something is happening behind the scenes that they desperately don't want you to know about. And when I tell you what I've pieced together from multiple sources, you're going to understand why Roman's shock return is actually the worst thing that could happen to WWE right now, not the best. But first, let me break down exactly what went down last night and why every single wrestling fan should be absolutely furious about how this was handled. Raw is rolling along, normal show, nothing special announced. We're watching some mid-card segment when suddenly boom, the arena goes black. That iconic music hits. The tribal chief is here. Roman Reigns walks out to an absolutely nuclear reaction, and I mean nuclear in both ways. Half the crowd is losing their minds with excitement, the other half is booing their lungs out because they're sick of the Roman show. He gets in the ring, grabs a microphone, and proceeds to cut a promo about how Survivor Series is his show, how he built this company, how nobody moves without the tribal chief's permission. Standard Roman stuff, right? Except here's what made no sense. Why now? Why 3 weeks before Survivor Series? Why on a random Raw in November instead of the go-home show or the actual pay-per-view? The answer is going to make your blood boil, and I'll get to that in a minute. But first, let's talk about what this return means for everyone else on the roster who's been busting their tails for the past 6 months while Roman was off doing movie shoots and making appearances everywhere except WWE television. You've got guys like Gunther who've been carrying SmackDown on their backs. You've got the Intercontinental Champion putting on classics every single week. You've got the tag division finally getting some attention. You've got women's wrestling reaching new heights. And in one night, all of that gets overshadowed because the part-timer with the God complex decides to grace us with his presence. Here's my first question for you, and I want honest answers in the comments. Are you actually happy Roman is back, or are you just conditioned to react positively because WWE has spent the last 4 years telling you he's the greatest thing ever? Really think about it before you answer. Now let's get into the real story here, the one WWE doesn't want reported. Multiple sources, and I'm talking people with actual knowledge of backstage situations, have indicated that Roman's return was moved up significantly because WWE is hemorrhaging viewers. Raw's ratings have been sliding for weeks. SmackDown's numbers aren't where they want them to be. Netflix is about to take over Raw in January, and they're panicking about what those debut numbers are going to look like. So what's their solution? Bring back Roman Reigns early, generate some buzz, hope it carries them through to the new year. It's desperate. It's short-sighted. And it completely undermines the entire roster that's been working their hearts out. But wait, it gets worse. Because Roman's return also conveniently coincides with some very interesting contract negotiation timelines for several top stars. Isn't it funny how WWE suddenly needs their biggest draw back on television right when they're trying to convince talent that they're the only game in town worth playing for? It's almost like they're using Roman's star power as a negotiating tactic. See, we have the guy, you need to stay here. It's transparent, it's manipulative, and it's classic WWE corporate strategy that treats wrestlers like chess pieces instead of human beings. Let's talk about the promo itself, because Roman came out there talking about Survivor Series like he owns it. This is my show. This is my company. Everything revolves around me. And you know what? He's not wrong, and that's the problem. WWE has booked themselves into a corner where they're so dependent on Roman Reigns that they literally cannot function without him. They've spent years building him as this unstoppable force, this once-in-a-generation talent, this transcendent star, and now they're addicted to that narrative. They can't move forward without him because they never bothered to build anyone else to his level. Think about it. Who on the current roster is positioned as strongly as Roman Reigns? Cody Rhodes is close, but WWE keeps booking him in ways that suggest he's not quite on that level. Seth Rollins is established but he's been spinning his wheels with mid-card feuds. Drew McIntyre is great but they've started and stopped his momentum so many times that fans don't fully believe in him anymore. Gunther is rising but he's still being protected and hasn't been tested in that true main event spot yet. WWE has spent so much time making Roman look like a god that everyone else looks like a mortal by comparison. Question for the longtime fans, when was the last time WWE successfully elevated someone to Roman's level of star power and importance? And no, I don't mean just giving someone a title, I mean actually making them feel like they matter as much as Roman. Drop your answer below because I genuinely can't think of one. Here's what kills me about this return, it was booked wrong from the start. If you're going to bring back your biggest star, you do it at the pay-per-view for maximum impact. You build anticipation. You let the speculation and rumors simmer. You create an organic groundswell of excitement. Instead, WWE just threw Roman out there on a random Raw because they needed a ratings pop. There was no story reason for him to be there last night. He wasn't interrupting anything important. He wasn't responding to a call out. He just showed up. And we're supposed to treat that like it's this amazing moment? Compare this to some of the legendary returns in wrestling history. When Stone Cold returned, it meant something within the context of the story. When The Rock came back, there was a purpose. When John Cena made surprise appearances, they were woven into existing storylines in meaningful ways. Roman's return last night was the equivalent of WWE pressing the break glass in case of emergency button. It wasn't creative. It wasn't storytelling. It was a business decision masquerading as a wrestling moment. And let's address the elephant in the room. Roman's promo was the same promo he's been cutting for 3 years. I'm the tribal chief. I run this company. You all acknowledge me. We've heard it 1,000 times. There's nothing new. There's no evolution. It's the same character, the same talking points, the same energy. And sure, it works because Roman is phenomenal at delivering that character, but at what point does it become stale? At what point do we demand something more from our top star than just running back the same playbook over and over? Here's the thing, and this is going to upset some people: Roman Reigns has become wrestling's comfort food. He's familiar. He's reliable. He's safe. WWE knows exactly what they're getting with Roman, and more importantly, they know exactly how fans will react. There's no risk involved. And that lack of risk means there's no real excitement either. We're not on the edge of our seats wondering what Roman will do next because we already know what he'll do. He'll talk about being the tribal chief. He'll have some family drama with the bloodline. He'll defend his status as the top guy. Rinse and repeat. What's your honest opinion? Has Roman Reigns' character become stale, or is it still fresh and compelling? This isn't about his talent, which is undeniable, but about whether the character has run its course. Let me know what you think. Now let's talk about Survivor Series and what Roman's return means for that event. Traditionally, Survivor Series is about brand warfare or team-based competition. It's supposed to showcase the depth of the roster, give mid-card guys a chance to shine, create unexpected team dynamics. But now that Roman is back, what do you want to bet that the entire show gets restructured around him? What do you want to bet that whatever match he's in becomes the match, and everything else gets positioned as secondary? It's happened before. It'll happen again. This is the Roman Reigns effect. Everything bends to accommodate him. Storylines get shifted. Other wrestlers' pushes get delayed. Creative plans get rewritten. And while you can argue that's what you're supposed to do with your top star, it creates the situation where nobody else can truly ascend because there's always a ceiling called Roman Reigns. You can be great, you can be over, you can have incredible matches, but you'll never be positioned as the guy because that spot is permanently occupied. Look at what happened during Roman's title reign. Guys like Drew McIntyre, Bobby Lashley, Edge, established main eventers all got fed to Roman. Younger stars like Theory and Austin Theory got their momentum killed by coming up short against Roman. Even when someone like Cody Rhodes finally beat him, it felt like it took a miracle to overcome the tribal chief. That's not creating new stars. That's sacrificing everyone else to maintain one person's dominance. And here's the kicker: WWE is about to do it all over again. Roman is back, which means we're heading into another cycle of who can overcome Roman Reigns? And we already know the answer: nobody can, unless WWE decides it's time for them to. It's not about the talent. It's not about the story. It's about whatever WWE's corporate strategy is for that particular quarter. That's not wrestling. That's business theater with wrestling aesthetics. Here's a scenario question for you all, and I really want to see the different perspectives in the comments. If you were booking WWE right now, would you put Roman in the main event of Survivor Series, or would you use his return to elevate someone else by having them in the spotlight while Roman works a different angle? What's the better long-term strategy? Let's talk about the locker room reaction, because I guarantee you there are wrestlers backstage who are absolutely furious right now. They've been working their tails off, having great matches, connecting with the audience, building momentum, and overnight, none of it matters because Roman is back. Do you think Gunther is thrilled that his World Heavyweight Championship suddenly feels less important because the Tribal Chief is in the building? Do you think the Intercontinental Champion is excited that his title reign is going to get even less attention? These guys are professionals, they'll do their jobs, but they're also human beings who want their work to be valued. And this is where WWE's part-timer problem becomes really apparent. When you have stars who come and go as they please but still get positioned as more important than your full-time roster, you create a two-tier system. There are the special attractions who get all the promotional focus and main event spots, and then there's everyone else fighting for scraps. It's demoralizing for the locker room, and it's confusing for fans who are told to invest in full-time wrestlers but then see them constantly overshadowed by part-timers. Roman isn't technically a part-timer anymore, he's back full-time according to WWE, but his schedule over the past year has been extremely light compared to everyone else. He's been doing movies, media appearances, taking time off for personal reasons, which is all completely fine and understandable. But when you return and immediately act like you never left, like you're still the undisputed top guy despite being absent for months, it sends a weird message. It tells everyone else that their work during your absence didn't really matter. Here's what frustrates me most about Roman's return promo: he didn't acknowledge anyone else. He didn't mention Cody Rhodes' championship reign. He didn't reference Gunther's dominance. He didn't talk about the incredible work the women's division has been doing. He came out, talked about himself, and left. That's not the behavior of someone who respects the business or his peers. That's the behavior of someone who's been told by management that he's the only one who matters. And maybe that's on WWE for creating that environment, but it still rubs me the wrong way. Quick question: do you think Roman Reigns should have acknowledged the work that's been done in his absence, or is it more in character for him to act like nothing matters except him? Is it good heel work or is it disrespectful to the roster? Let me tell you what should have happened last night. Roman should have returned on SmackDown, his home brand, where his story actually lives. He should have shown up to address the current state of the bloodline, to deal with Solo Sikoa's attempt to take over the family, to confront Jimmy and G about where their loyalties lie. That's the story people are actually invested in. That's the continuation of the narrative we've been watching for years. Instead, he shows up on Raw, a brand he has minimal connection to cut a generic "I'm the best" promo. It's backward storytelling that prioritizes the short-term ratings pop over long-term narrative coherence. And speaking of the bloodline story, how does Roman's return affect that? Solo Sikoa has been doing great work leading the new iteration of the bloodline. He's established himself as a credible threat. He's developed his own identity separate from Roman. And now Roman's back, which presumably means we're heading toward a confrontation between the tribal chief and his former enforcer. That could be incredible. But it could also completely derail everything Solo has built if it's just used to re-establish Roman's dominance without giving Solo his due. This is WWE's consistent problem with long-term storytelling: they build something interesting, and then they sacrifice it the moment they need a quick fix. Solo's bloodline storyline has been one of the most compelling things on SmackDown. But if Roman just comes back and demolishes everything Solo has built to reassert himself as the head of the table, what was the point? You've just wasted months of television and character development for a predictable outcome that doesn't create any new stars. What do you think happens when Roman confronts Solo? Does Solo get to look strong and establish himself as a legitimate rival, or does he get squashed to re-establish Roman's dominance? Place your bets in the comments. Here's another angle nobody's talking about: what does Roman's return mean for the Netflix deal? Raw is moving to Netflix in January, which is a massive change for WWE. Netflix has completely different expectations and metrics than traditional television. They care about subscriber retention, binge-watching patterns, social media buzz. WWE needs to hit a home run with their Netflix debut or risk looking like a bad investment. So they're bringing back Roman to ensure those first few weeks are as big as possible. It's smart business, but it's also incredibly transparent. The problem is that Netflix viewers might not have the same relationship with Roman Reigns that traditional WWE fans do. Netflix audiences are used to prestige television with complex narratives and character development. If Roman just comes in and does his same routine without evolution or depth, will it land with that demographic? Or will WWE need to actually push Roman to grow as a character to satisfy Netflix's audience expectations? This could either be really good for Roman's character development or really bad if WWE just doubles down on what's worked before. And let's be real about Survivor Series itself: it's become kind of a forgotten pay-per-view in recent years. It doesn't have the prestige of WrestleMania, the unpredictability of Royal Rumble, or the excitement of Money in the Bank. WWE has struggled to give it an identity beyond the November show. So bringing Roman back now is clearly an attempt to make people care about Survivor Series again. But is that the right strategy? Are we going to care about Survivor Series because of the show and its concept, or are we just going to care because Roman Reigns is there? That's the fundamental question about modern WWE. Are people tuning in for the product or for specific individuals? And if it's the latter, what happens when those individuals aren't around? WWE needs to create a product that's compelling regardless of who's on the show, but they keep relying on a handful of stars to carry everything. Roman's return is just another example of that short-term thinking. Last question, and this is the big one: be completely honest with yourself. If Roman Reigns wasn't on the Survivor Series card, would you still order it or watch it with the same level of excitement? Does his presence actually change your interest level, or would you watch regardless? Your answer reveals a lot about WWE's current situation. Look, I'm not saying Roman Reigns isn't talented. He absolutely is. I'm not saying he shouldn't be featured prominently. He's earned that spot. What I'm saying is that the way WWE uses him reveals a deeper problem with how they build stars and tell stories. Roman's shock return last night wasn't about what's best for the industry or even what's best for Roman's character. It was about what's best for WWE's quarterly earnings report and their Netflix negotiations. And that's fine, wrestling is a business. But let's not pretend it's something it's not. The epic return everyone's celebrating is actually a symptom of WWE's biggest weakness, their inability to create multiple main event level stars who can carry the company when needed. They've put all their eggs in the Roman Reigns basket, and now they're stuck. They can't do a major show without him. They can't generate buzz without him. They can't satisfy their corporate partners without him. That's not strength. That's dependency. And dependency makes you vulnerable. What should have been a triumphant return instead feels calculated and desperate. What should have been a WrestleMania-level moment instead happened on a random Raw 3 weeks before a B-level pay-per-view. What should have been the culmination of months of storytelling instead feels like a panic button being pushed because ratings were slipping. That's not how you book your top star. That's how you burn through your most valuable asset because you don't have faith in anything else. So yeah, Roman Reigns shocked WWE Raw with his epic return before Survivor Series. The wrestling world is talking about it. Social media is buzzing. Mission accomplished for WWE, right? But at what cost? At the cost of everyone else on the roster who gets overshadowed. At the cost of long-term storytelling in favor of short-term pops. At the cost of creative risks because they'd rather go with what's safe and familiar. Roman's back, and that's great for Roman. But for everyone else, for the rest of the roster, for the quality of storytelling, for the future of the company, I'm not so sure this is the epic moment WWE wants us to believe it is. And in a few months, when we're all complaining about the same old Roman storylines with no fresh match UPS and no new stars on the horizon, remember this moment. Remember when WWE chose the easy path instead of the right one.